Hello, my name is Julissa Gonzalez, and this is my project for our Visions of Utopia class. I decided to do my project on the musical manifestation of romantic love as representations of utopian thinking. To start off, we're going to talk about utopianism, and we're going to go into some definitions for it. So what is utopia? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word? A lot of people, when they're asked that question, will answer with that they think of pure bliss. They think of a society that doesn't really have rules or regulations. They think of freedom. Sometimes people will think of religion. A lot of times people will think of fiction. But a very big common denominator here is that people will think of something that's very improbable or impossible to attain within our present reality. Now, what is utopia really? So we have a quote here from the Utopia Reader, which is written by Gregory Clays and Lyman Sargent, and it reads, "Utopianism generally is the imaginative projection, positive or negative, of a society that is substantially different from the one in which the author lives." That's a bit much, but we'll break it down. It is important to mention, though, that the human imagination of a society that's different from ours is kind of necessary for our well-being. Whether we imagine a world that's more positive than our current one or more negative, as it says in this definition, the point is that we have something that motivates us to work towards something else. As mentioned in that definition, utopia is a concept that is multifaceted. It does have subdivisions to it. It's a bit of an umbrella term, and we're going to talk about two of those subdivisions right now. So we have utopia, which is what we mostly associate with being utopia. It's what we said in response to that question of what we first think of when we hear the word utopia. This term originated with Sir Thomas More, the author of Utopia, which is a very famous book, and basically, utopia is the ideal. On the other hand, you have dystopia, which is exactly the opposite. It's a society where you have suffering and hardship and struggle constantly. It's also a very popular concept in modern media as of recent years. We've seen a very big rise in popularity. For example, The Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, Divergent, are all films that broke records and had the books flying off the shelves. In this presentation, however, we're going to focus more on utopianism. This is taking us to the topic of romance. It's another genre that truly makes the masses go wild. In music, we have endless amounts of famous love songs. In literature and film, we have books and movies and shows like Pride and Prejudice, The Notebook, A Walk to Remember, The Fault in Our Stars, Titanic, Me Before You, Outlander, Twilight, Anna Karenina. The list goes on. Even the dystopian novels I mentioned before have romance running through them. Now, the question is, why are these such loved pieces of media? What are they offering us that people keep seeking after it? Is it the insight to relationships? Is it the adventures that the people go on to finally unite with each other, or the struggles that they go through? Is it the angst of finally forming a union? But maybe it's that we live through these characters. So let's break down the definition of romance. Romance is defined as being a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love. So we know excitement, we understand elation and eagerness, we know mystery, it's the unexplainable. But what about love? That's the tricky part, and most definitions will differ, so I'll leave that one up to you to define for yourself. A very big question to ask is, do we idealize love? It's something that we see all of the time, very frequently in the world around us, especially in media. In her book, Consuming the Romantic Utopia, Love and Cultural Contradictions of Capitalism, Eva Illouz explores the question of whether the influence of media kind of forces us to have an idealized version of romance. She hypothesizes that it does, that love enacts the utopian properties of liminal rituals. She focuses on like everyday life and the penetration of postmodern culture on that. But in her book, she does say one thing that I found particularly interesting that really applies to this presentation and the topic that I'm trying to explain so much that we're getting to. She mentions romantic utopia. Basically, that's all the cliches and sappy things that often come to mind when we think of romance and we like wonder what it is and we imagine things. It's all of those stereotypical things. In her book, she discusses that that's something that lives in the collective conscious, and she says that it's indebted to media portrayals of love. I'm not here to really go into depth on whether she's right or not, but I do appreciate her link between utopia and romance. And I do believe that there's most definitely this air of utopianism that surrounds love, and that's what we'll be exploring. This takes us to music. Our search specifically will be based in music. Music is without a doubt something that's very important. It's something that's used to motivate us. It's a constant that's always there for us when we need it, and it's an art form, which means that it's a very expressive thing and it's an outlet for our feelings. I do find that love songs do have a tendency to be utopian. They do have certain features that correlate. There are overlaps between the two, and there are three main subdivisions that I have found a duality in. I've seen it in love as a dream or a wish, love as peace or tranquility, and love as an escape, haven, or healing. So now we're going to go into a couple of songs that fall under each of these subdivisions, and I have the lyrics here to show you kind of what I was thinking when I was reading these lyrics and how I was able to correlate this to utopianism. So here we have Change the World by Eric Clapton. He wishes to change the world to prove himself to his love interest and to change the circumstances so he can be with her. He dreams of this love, and he even calls himself a fool for dreaming this up so much. We have 1,000 Times by Rostam Batmangli and Hamilton Lathauser. In this song, they're only ever able to dream of being with their person, and they sing about what things would be like if they were with them. This love is fated to only ever be imagined because for them it's very unachievable in a way. Like their circumstances don't allow for that to happen for them. We have Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes. It has the singers asking this folklore figure to bring them a dream of their ideal man. They go into this description of physical attributes and like personality attributes of what they would want in a man, and they ask to dream of him because that perfect man can only be found within their dreams. All I Have to Do Is Dream by the Everly Brothers is another big one. When the brothers are sad or lonely or needing something, they turn to their dreams and they dream up this woman that's there for them. She's their ideal person, and they can get from her what they so much yearn for. And even in the lyrics, they say that they're dreaming their life away. We have Happy Together by the Turtles. This one has us envisioning a love where there's all blue skies, and the singer himself spends all his days and all his nights imagining what it would be like to have that love that he's yearning for and has this deep desire for. Much like utopianism, we have examples of relationships that only can be dreamt of. For the people in these songs, the love that they want is unachievable to them for whatever reason, whether it's life circumstances, whether it's that they're dreaming up this ideal person that can't exist because there's no such thing as perfect. So they're reduced to only desiring and yearning for what could be. Now we move on to love as peace and tranquility. So Eric Clapton comes back again, this time with Wonderful Tonight, which is a song about watching his lover while she gets ready to go out with him, and about that outing. The song's very interesting because he only really focuses on her and not really anything else. It's slow and warm, and at the end of it, she drives him home and gets him to bed, and it offers a very comforting feel. And the whole thing is just a very peaceful and simple song. We have Keep Driving by Harry Styles. This is another one that falls into this category. It's about a day out with a lover driving around and the simplicity of it. As they drive together, negative things will come up, but they sort of fade away. When they're faced with this threat of trouble coming, they just keep driving because it's not scary when they're with each other. When they're together, things are much less daunting. So then we have love as an escape, haven, or healing. So we have Tiny Dancer by Elton John. This is an infamous song, and it's about the literal haven that is felt between the singer and his person. The world loses his edge when he's with her, which we see when they're walking around, and she just laughs off the trouble, and he says the boulevard is not that bad. When he's with her, the world feels like it's just them two, which really goes on with this haven feeling. There's the song Witchcraft by Graveyard Club. It's about this all-consuming experience being with this woman. To the singer, this love is almost supernatural, which is why he compares it to witchcraft. It's just something very enchanting. It gives this sort of story of love at first sight, and how the day he saw the woman's face, all his pain that he's felt just fades away, which again, it's this sort of healing. We have Love Song by The Cure. The singer describes how his person's love is this restoring and healing force for him. When he's with his person, he feels cleansed and welcomed and loved, which kind of juxtaposes this insinuated situation where when he's not with her, he feels the exact opposite of that. His person makes him feel whole and young and fun and free and clean, and he's just his most ideal version of himself when he's with her. There is Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, which is another incredible song falling under this category. The singer talks about how life is a struggle and how the world around him seems made to be broken. His description of being with this person is almost as if they're like a solace for him. They're a safe place for him. And he even goes as far to say that this person is the closest to heaven that he'll ever be, which really emphasizes this perfection. Lastly, we have Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. Shockingly enough, this is a song that I found to truly encompass love as a representation of utopianism, even though this isn't typically recognized as a love song. The singer here describes this effect that the woman he's in love with has on him. To him, she has this restorative and healing power over him. He talks a lot about how she brings him back to childhood and these memories of childhood, and he compares it with a bright blue sky. Through his descriptions of her, for example, he describes her hair, and he describes it as a reminder of where he'd hide as a child, and he explicitly uses the word safe, which really shows that this woman for him is this refuge and an escape from troubles in an almost healing way. So it's important to mention that the motivation behind utopian imagination is dissatisfaction. The main motivator, and truly the reason why we have this need to imagine perfection, is because we have a sense of dissatisfaction with the world around us and the present state of things. That's why it's so necessary for us as humans to be able to imagine all these things. Whether it's something that's minimal or trivial in our lives, or something as grand as the whole world, that dissatisfaction is still present. And it's important to mention that all of these songs depict a satisfaction or potential satisfaction with their person, whether it's something that's imagined or perceived. They all find for there to be satisfaction in love. Thank you for listening.